Julio Garcia Espinosa, the renowned Cuban film director and screenwriter, says, "We maintain that imperfect cinema must above all show the process which generates the problems. It is thus the opposite of a cinema principally dedicated to celebrating results, the opposite of a self-sufficient and contemplative cinema, the opposite of a cinema which beautifully illustrates ideas or concepts which we already possess." By this, he's encouraging filmmakers to show cinema in unconventional and interesting ways in order to engage with a different audience than the widely streamed commercialized media that is most commonly produced. However, brief flashbacks to earlier events in the story are common in today's films, but they would have been considered unusual in the 1930s and 1940s. For this module, I was tasked to create an experimental short film in around 3 months. During my research, I realised that most experimental films have random, undefined narratives, and so the plots don't always make sense to the audience. Rather than emulating that and writing an unusual script, instead I decided to be more experimental in how I actually conveyed the storyline to viewers. So I took the opportunity to explore different, less conventional methods of how to tell a story, while still making it relatable to the audience. My idea was to produce a short film depicting a kidnapping, but to tell the narrative using still photographs rather than video footage, which would be the more traditional method. I thought that this would be an interesting and unusual way to show the narrative, as I haven't seen a lot of this done before. My main inspiration was the 1962 science fiction featurette Le Jeté, which uses pictures in a documentary style to visualize the time loop of a scientific experiment as the character tries to solve the world's post-World War III problems. Chafed Elbows by Robert Downey Sr. in 1966 also has a really unique way of using images and voiceover to show a story. Run Lola Run uses pictures throughout the film and is a really great example of how stills can be used alongside the conventional video footage to add effect and create interest within the piece. To complement the theme of a kidnapping, I wanted to display my idea as a take on an evidence folder that would be shown during a criminal investigation. I took inspiration from the shows such as 2024 ongoing Disney Plus series High Potential, and true crime documentaries such as the BBC's 2024 part series The Trials of Oscar Pistorius and Channel 5's 2020 series The 5 Mistakes That Caught a Killer Episode 4 Milk-Filled Pot. Other types of film have also been known to use photographic and stills techniques to show a storyline. An example of an animation film which does this would be Sony's 2018 Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Its comic book style mimics the flipping of the illustrated pages, adding exciting visuals to the story and linking the film back to its origins. By using photographs rather than videos to tell the story, it gives the audience more time to view the whole image before them, allowing them the opportunity to fully interpret the scene that is being shown. By focusing on a certain angle or reaction for longer, the audience can become more involved and engaged in the storyline, making them more invested in the situation and characters being portrayed. This is shown in films such as Blow Up, 1966, Dog's Dialogue, 1974, and 20th Century Woman, 2016, where the use of stills gives context to the storyline. By experimenting with the way I am telling the narrative, I was very conscious that the audience may struggle to follow the plotline due to lack of dialogue. Therefore, the use of an appropriate soundtrack became critical in order to create an atmosphere, guiding the audience towards a feeling of tension and foreboding. Also, when using video footage, the viewer can get a sense of energy and pace through visual cues such as the speed and actions of the characters within a scene. By using stills, this feeling of movement and drive through the narrative is lost. To compensate, I use a fade technique between the two stills at the stage where the stalking becomes an actual kidnapping, and at the end I tried to create a change of pace during the flashback sequence, where I deliberately made those stills brighter in colour, clearer in focus, and shorter in length than the previous kidnapping images, in order to emphasise the difference in timeline, and to change the dynamic as you realise the shock identity of her kidnapper. So what better way to create an experimental film and to try a different way in which to tell my story than with photographs? As Albert Einstein famously said, 1 picture is worth 1,000 words, and I hope that I have shown with my film that the use of still images can convey a concept, narrative and emotions without the need for the conventional moving image and dialogue of the commercial mainstream cinema output.